So hello, welcome back to RS Thinks. In this video we're going to be looking at the Audi e-tron Sportback. So thank you for joining me again, where we're going to look at the Audi e-tron Sportback. As before with other cars I've featured on the channel, I borrowed this from the EV Experience Centre in Milton Keynes again, which is an absolutely fantastic way to try an EV before you buy an EV. This car here, as spec'd up, costs about £84,000. Now obviously it's an Audi, it's got all the tech, it's got all the luxury, it's got all the toys, it's got everything you could ever want in a car, and hence the cost. Now think back to the ID4 I had in the previous video, that's literally half the price. It was an ID4 first edition, which comes in at £40,880, so roughly half the price. So in this video we'll see what you get extra for your money if you choose this over the ID4. So we'll start with the sides like I normally do. You've got a charge port actually here, which is cool. So you've got CCS on this side, and on the opposite side you've got exactly the same thing, but that's just a Type 2 socket. The CCS will charge at 150 kilowatts and the Type 2 will do up to 11 kilowatts. The wheels we've got here are 21 inch wheels, and they're absolutely huge. They're really wide as well, so obviously they're performance sort of type wheels. They look really good. They're diamond cut as well, so they look almost like a stainless steel type colour, but they're sort of like mirror finish. You've also got the yellow brake calipers in here too, with say e-tron on them, which look really nice, look really good. Mirrors. Now we've got the mirror cameras on this particular model here, which is an extra. It costs I think about 1,200 quid extra. We'll look at those later. Got the nice swoopy sort of shape to it. This being the Sportback, it's more akin to being like a hatchback sort of car, like a coupe sort of profile on it, which again is quite nice. Be interesting to see what the headroom's like in the back, because obviously the roof is sloping down a bit more than it would in the conventional e-tron. So stay tuned and we'll see what that's like in the back. I'll go and look at the front. We've got matrix headlights, which again you had on the ID4. Now these ones are so much more, I don't know, functional than the ones on the ID4. So these have got specific things in there that if you're driving down the motorway, for instance, it will only light your lane. So if you're going to pull across, if you start indicating, it will light the lane next to you as you're pulling into it, and then sort of like shut it down so it's just lighting your lane again, which I think is a nice feature. But is it really something you need? I don't think people would miss it if they didn't have it, for instance. We've got S-Line badge on here, so this is the e-tron Sportback S-Line, which gives you a little bit more kind of toys inside it. We'll obviously cover that later. The grille at the front has actually got active slats in here, so it can open and close them as it needs to increase aerodynamics, and also it can open them to actually get the airflow into the front if it needs to cool anything down, which is quite cool. You've got the nice sort of brushed chrome surround here, which looks really cool, with the e-tron graphic stamped into the bottom, which is really nice. It looks like a really premium car, doesn't it? And like the ID4 too, you've got the front vent here, which goes all the way through and comes out, so you can aid the airflow going around the car as well, which is quite good. So under the bonnet you've got storage in the guise of this compartment here, which as you can see has got the EVSE charger. So this is the charger that you would connect to a 13 amp plug to plug it in your home if you don't have your own 7 kilowatt home charger. This one actually comes with quite a lot of adapters. So you've got a commando socket, and you've got another socket as well. So it's kind of like a variable kind of inputs and this is the standard charger that you get with the e-tron. I believe this could be an optional extra. I'll put on the bottom if it is. Nothing much else to see in here. You've just got the washer fluid here, and then various high voltage cables and other bits and pieces. Everything's covered up with plastic, so nothing much to see. So this is an Audi e-tron Sportback 55 Quattro. The 55 gives some indication as to the size of the battery. There's also a 50, which gets a 71 kilowatt hour battery. This gets a 95 kilowatt hour battery. And from that you get approximately 230 miles of range from it. That's a figure quoted by the EV database. Now the ID4, obviously being a lighter car and also having a smaller battery at 77 kilowatt hours, is quoted of over 300 miles. So you can see how the weight makes such a difference, and also the performance of this car would make a difference too. So this has got a 400 horsepower motor as opposed to the 200 that was in the ID4 too. So this has got a lot more acceleration, a lot more power, which again would use more energy from the battery, hence your range is slightly lower. So before we look in the boot, we'll just have a look at the rear here. So we've got nice LED lights in here. We've got the sweeping indicators, and there's also a light bar that goes the full width of the back, lights up red in the dark, which is really cool. There is a reversing camera under here as well, and something I missed on the ID4 is this one also has it. There's also a little water jet that comes out here too. It's one thing that I didn't pick up on the ID4, and I said it was better having the ID3 version where it goes into the badge and keeps clean, but ignore that, I didn't spot it, but it's got a little nozzle on the side that squirts water on it, so it keeps it clean. The boot is electric, which you kind of would expect on a car at this price point. So in the boot you've got 615 litres of space. You've got these fetching chrome little eye hooks here for a net system that is also included here. You've got storage left and right, and then underneath there's even more storage, which is quite deep, where you can actually have a spare wheel. You can easily fit a spare wheel in here. There's also a crate in here too that you can pull out for storage. If you're going to take it into the shops with you or something, you can put that in. All nice little features. With the seats down, you've got 1,655 litres of space, which is about 100 litres more than you would get in the ID4. So if you've seen my videos before, I always like to check out the back to see how much space a tall person like me would have. The seat is set to my position. I'm about 6'2", maybe 6'3". Now, slightly different in this car is that there's like a comfort feature with the seat. So when you open the door, switch the car off, the seat will actually move back a little bit, so you can exit the car more easily. So what I've done is the car's switched on and the seat is in the position that I would have it normally, just to give maximum space in the room. Obviously when you're driving, the seat's going to move forward. So let's check this out. Wow, so there is a ton of space in here. This is much better than the ID4, to be honest. So the seats are actually sculpted out, so there's a good like this much between the front of my knee and the part of the sculpted out seat, which is brilliant. That's really, really nice. The headroom is surprisingly good too. There's actually two scoops. So they've realised that obviously the headroom's going to suffer because it's got a slopey back compared to the normal e-tron, but they've actually got two scoops here, so your head just goes into it. I've probably got about this much between the top of my head and the top of the roof. Back of the seat has got a net in it, which is useful. You've got a vent in the actual B pillar as well, so you can control your air conditioning settings. And then using the panel here, you can set temperatures and rates and all that type of stuff, which is really cool. And then you've got central vents in here too. We've got ISOFIX as well on both seats, left and right. The seats are very comfy, really comfy. They're really soft nappa leather, I believe, so it's really, really smooth, really nice to touch. Underneath the panel, we've got two conventional USB sockets, and we've got a 12-volt power one as well. And then in the middle, fold-down flap with drinks. Yep, drinks on the front. And then there's a space back here. You could put maybe a phone or a small tablet or something as well. And then you also have the load through coming into the back, so you can get direct access to the boot, long items, skis, that kind of things. So I always say this because the cars I've actually tested have all been really good for a tall person, but I could definitely travel a long journey on this in this car and not feel any kind of fatigue or anything. Just close the door. So looking at the doors have got a really nice suede panel in. Now the suede obviously mirrored in the front as well. It's not hard plastics, it's slightly softer plastics. Nice chrome mirror, space for a bottle in the bottom, and you've got your own little speaker here, one at the top and the bottom. So probably a tweeter and a conventional one too. But yeah, I'm really surprised by the back. So inside the cabin, you are totally spoiled with leather, screens everywhere, really nice soft touch plastics, both on the dash and on the doors. You've got a nice chrome trip that runs across. You've got the e-tron graphic on this side. Steering wheel is obviously multifunction steering wheel. On the back of it, you've got some paddles that allow you to control the regen of the vehicle. You can have it in automatic as well, but you can also override this. So say you're going to stop at a traffic light or something, you can sort of like increase the regen and obviously gain a little bit more power. The main display behind the steering wheel is a digital screen with various views that you can choose. You can view the sat nav in here, which is really cool. It actually uses Google Maps. You can view your range and your kind of consumption values. Radio stations, if your phone's connected, you can view that to ring people and stuff. The sat nav is also mirrored in this side here too, so you can also view a map here, so if your passenger's interested in what you're doing, where you're going, they can see too. Beneath this, you've got the climate control screen, which, as the name suggests, you can use air conditioning, heated seats, all that kind of stuff. Now, both of these two screens have got haptic feedback, so if you just dab the screen with your finger and nothing happens, you've physically got to press the screen in, and there is an audible click, and the screen does actually give way a little bit. I think that's a really cool idea. There aren't many buttons here at all. Most things are controlled from the screen. So if you want to reach down and say change something, you have got to look at the screen to see what you're doing, to know which buttons you're pressing. There is voice control, but as with most things, it's hit and miss whether it works all the time, whether it understands you, or whether the background noise gets in the way, that kind of thing. I'm pleased to see there is a volume knob down here for the radio, and you can also turn it on and off with that, which I find really, really useful. Obviously people are used to having knobs and twisting and things, so when things go to touch screen, you've got to look where the controls are, and it's not always as intuitive. There is a volume knob on the steering wheel here, but I find you've really got to spin it round to get the volume to increase or decrease. So having a welcome knob down here is quite good. Also in the center console, you've got the buttons here to engage the cameras. Now the cameras are really cool. You've got like a 3D view. So if you press this, then you can view your car from different angles, which helps with low speed maneuvering. And as you're driving, the whole thing can update, so you could physically maneuver the car in a tight space just by looking at this screen here. You can view it from various sides, and it just spins round. You can view it from the top as well. And then you've got a full 360 camera on this side here. It's just grayed off on this right hand side here just because I've got the door open, but this is very useful. Had this on my Leaf, was always using it, again guiding into parking spaces and things, so it's kind of something that I do miss on my ID3, but I think it is an option on the ID4. Also in the center console, you've got the drive mode selector. Now this is a really nice piece of design. It's so you can have your hand on like this and then just use your thumb to move this rocker backwards and forwards to change the drive mode. You've got a button on the end to put the handbrake on, and then you've got another further button here to put the parking brake on. You've got a little cubby just down to the side here where you can put a phone or a tablet to charge wirelessly. You've got a pullback cover in here too with for drinks. You've got 12-volt socket down here too. And then just to the rear of here, you've got 2 USB ports, an SD card port, and a place where you can stick a SIM card, which is good for data connectivity. Underneath here, you've got another storage cubby, which actually has a little hole passing through, so you can pass a cable through if you're going to charge something in here, if you don't want to use the wireless charging. Seats are very comfortable. They're the sport seats. They've got a S-Line logo just embroidered or embossed in the top. Really nice stitching again. And they've also got a little function where you can pull out the seat at the bottom just to extend it a bit. So someone like me, slightly longer legs, you get a little bit more support on the little panel down here. Glove box is quite usable. It's quite big actually. There's no encroaching of the fuse box on this side as there is with the ID cars, which is quite nice. Very large amount of space, which is very good. And as I mentioned before, we've got the actual mirror display. So this doesn't have conventional mirrors, it's got the cameras. And this one on this side works really well because of the driving position. You're looking straight across and you're only a little bit, like a few inches further down from where you would look normally with the mirror. The driver's side is a bit different because the angle that you're looking at it from is quite steep. So sometimes it's a bit, you have to look at it a little bit longer than you would usually just to get your bearings with that. But I think they work well, but I wouldn't personally choose them myself. I'd probably opt with the conventional mirrors and save 1,200 quid. You've got the suede bits here, you've got the chrome. There's actually a light LED strip in here that lights up based on what mode you got the car in. So I think if it's in the dynamic mode, it goes red. If it's in eco or comfort, it may go white. You've got the soft touch plastics on here as well. Door handle, nice brushed chrome. You've also got the locking ability. At the top, we've got the glass roof, which is really good. It's not full length, and there is a split in the middle because you can open it. You can tilt it back, and you can also slide it back about halfway too. The switch to do that is just up here. So if I just tilted this one here, then it just tilts, and then to slide it back, just do it again. And then we have open space at the top. So let's go for a drive now and I'll see how it handles on the road. I'm looking forward to this because it's got air suspension, which you can actually set to match the road you're on. So there's an off-road mode which actually raises the ride height of the car. There's comfort mode, a dynamic sport mode which stiffens the chassis up a bit. So I really love the fit and finish inside here. It's really premium, as it should be on a car of this price bracket. The wood and the leather are really good. The suede in the door pockets are really good as well. The only thing I'm not so keen on is my left leg keeps hitting the center console because it's quite high. Now that's kind of making me feel a little bit hemmed in, just because my car, the center console is quite low down, so it appears to have quite a lot of space, a lot of kind of elbow room, a lot of room next to your left leg. This car doesn't, but then it does have quite a big center console. There's quite a lot going on in there. You've got the screen for the climate control, you've got the drive mode selector, various other little buttons as well, so there is a lot to kind of package in there, so it's understandable that it is a bit more bulkier. So when I'm driving, I like to listen to podcasts. So I can recommend one to you if you're looking for a new one. It's called EV Musings. It's about electric vehicles and all things interesting to electric vehicle drivers, renewable technologies, EV technologies, really, really interesting. So you can find it in the usual place you'd find your podcasts. Personally, I use the Google app, the Google Podcast app, but you can find it on the Apple equivalent. But I'll put a link in the description to the main place as well, so you can find it there. But it's well worth a listen. So despite weighing 2.7 tons in this particular model, your 0 to 60 time is 5.7 seconds with the sport mode engaged, and with just normal drive mode it's 6.6 seconds, so it's pretty quick. When you do have sport mode engaged, it gives you like a bit of extra boost. When you're looking on the power meter on the left, it goes from 0 to 100%. When you put it in sport mode, you get another little segment lights up called Boost. So this is the second all-electric car from Audi. The first one was the original e-tron, then the e-tron Sportback came along, and then there's now the e-tron GT, which is based on the same platform as the Porsche Taycan, and announced recently is the Q4 e-tron, which is a smaller version as well. So it seems like they're starting at the top in the size, cost, with their premium SUVs first, which I think is a good thing, because if you're going to spend quite a lot of money on an electric car, it sort of makes sense to do it at the top end first. Then you can maybe convert people who would have ordinarily bought like a Q7 or a Q8 or even a BMW X5, X6, Mercedes G-Wagon, GLC, GLA, all those kind of things into the electric equivalent. Now, if you're looking to buy those cars I've just mentioned anyway, I don't think you're going to be too fussed about the range of the car, because you're buying it because it's a premium SUV, really. So when I originally planned to get this car and do a video about it, I was going to compare it against the ID4, but then I realised that you're comparing chalk and cheese. You're comparing a premium high-end car that costs over 80 grand with one that costs half the amount of money. So obviously, to me, money is always an issue. It would be a no-brainer. I would always go for the smaller car, just because I would never be in the market for a car like this. Range Rover, X5, X6, all the cars I mentioned before. So it'd be unfair for me to compare it against the ID4. I know I mentioned it a few times, but you are comparing chalk and cheese. So most of the time, the e-tron is actually rear-wheel drive. Even though it's got a four-wheel drive motor at the front, motor at the back, it only engages the front one when it needs to. So during regular driving, it actually decouples the motor to save power. Obviously, if you're driving one motor, you're using less power than if you're driving two motors, which I think is a good thing. The efficiency of the car isn't the best, but I don't think you're buying it for its efficiency, are you? If you were, as I said, you would go and buy an ID4, wouldn't you? You're buying it because it's a premium SUV, and normally you would have been in the market for something equivalent. So I've had this car for a few days now, so I've really gotten used to driving it, and I kind of like it in a way, because it's probably one of the most expensive cars I'll ever get to drive, and I don't think I would ever actually purchase one of these myself, even if I could. So it was a nice experience. The range, as I said, the range wouldn't be an issue for somebody who was looking for this type of car. If you're driving around London, again, range wouldn't be an issue. If you want to have the status symbol of the large, expensive, luxurious SUV and you want to go electric, then this is obviously one of the contenders. I've actually gotten used to the mirrors now as well. The one over on the passenger side is absolutely fine. This one is fine now as well. It's just training your mind to look slightly down when you turn to the driver's side one, whereas looking over at the passenger side, you've only got to adjust your eye line just a couple of inches down from where you would normally look. So something else that may be of interest to people who want to tow, you can tow 750 kilograms unbraked, but you can tow a massive 1,800 kilograms braked. So that is definitely into caravan territory, so you could use this to tow. What that would do to the range, I have no idea. It's already low at 230 miles when you compare it against the size of the battery, the 95 kilowatt hour battery. So what that would do when you've got a 1,800 kilogram weight behind you, I'm not sure really. So today's handback day. So I'm going to be taking the car back up to Milton Keynes. I've actually gone over the mileage limit that you get with this, so there will be an extra charge for me to pay, because I've been driving it so much, because I really like it, and when else am I going to get this opportunity to drive something as premium as this? So thank you so much for watching. This is something a little bit different. It's a premium SUV on the channel, which I didn't think I'd be able to get, but obviously this is due to the EV Experience Centre having them available for rent. So would highly recommend you go in there if you're thinking of getting this vehicle or any other vehicle. Have a look what they've got. and you'll be able to experience it for a few days to see if making the switch to pure EV is for you. So please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.